Once we judged the worth of an institution by the structure that housed it. Great buildings gave physicality to grand beliefs in government, education, and religion. Now, in the virtual world, our perception of these institutions and the world itself is less concrete.
This church is a very hospitable church called First Churches, which is located on Main Street in Northampton. But one of the things that it reminds me of is that I came from a very conventional episcopal family. And my grandfather was the Bishop of Montreal, and my dad was a real ardent churchgoer, as is my mom. And my dad and I, growing up, used to go at it, not only about things religious, but any issue that you can imagine. And when I decided to be ordained, I thought that I would end up in a building like this. And I assumed a lot of sort of professional assumptions about what it meant to be a priest. But I didn't last in a parish for very long, and I realize now one of the reasons was I never really enjoyed going to church very much. And what I ended up doing was to go to a college campus where, as an Episcopal priest in even 1990, you knew that you were in enemy territory. It made me open up to the point of view of people who have nothing to do with religious experience, and how to make what I knew about God real to people who didn't have the same traditional upbringing that I did. I began to think, okay, so how can we reimagine what the church is that will address the resistance to walking into a church on Sunday morning and worshiping at 10 o'clock? And that was really the advent of Cathedral in the Night here in Northampton. We actually inaugurated first on the Smith College campus, and when we realized that we needed to be in the belly of the beast or downtown, we moved it to just outside this church building.
This is the story of how a small group of people stepped out of the building onto the streets to discover what the future might look like for those of us hoping for a better world.
Cathedral in the Night and Cathedral in the Light are two outdoor worshiping communities in New England. We worship together 12 months a year through the winter, regardless of weather and other circumstances that can impinge on an outdoor community.
So most of our congregation are people that are experiencing poverty and homelessness. Some people are struggling with addiction and mental illness. We really felt it was important to be outside, so it was a place where really people welcome us into their space instead of us always asking people to come to ours. So being outside really helps that. We also really strive to think about where Jesus was, and Jesus was often outside on the edges, and we really believe that if we stand on the edge as Jesus stood on the edge, that nobody's excluded then, everybody is welcome. But it also draws people that are looking for a different kind of church, something that is grounded in justice and caring about people. But it's really a place for anybody to feel like they can find a home here and they're welcome.
If you actually are concerned about a literal reading of the Bible, you don't go looking for things that aren't there, you go for things that are there. And what is there is that Jesus was constantly outside. He was constantly pushing to the margins of his culture, to the people who most needed help. People who were sick, who were suffering, who were lonely, who were somehow marginalized culturally or otherwise. First of all, the scriptures always began as oral tradition. And so one of the interesting things to me about street stories is that in a lot of ways, street stories jumps back behind the written narrative that got published as the Bible to the oral tradition from which the Bible came. It's not, I think, a coincidence that the beginning street stories on the website came out of outdoor communities, specifically Cathedral in the Night and Cathedral in the Light. I think it's a new old way of having a Bible.
Using just smartphones and the internet, They are creating a new kind of institution in the virtual world.
I mean, it sounds to me as though you're describing what it feels like to have no place to go.
Yeah. That's why before we got the camper, we had money. We would stay at a hotel in Orange and come up here on Sundays. Joe would make sure I had gas money. That was one thing we did. We didn't do much, but we came here for the meals and came to Cathedral Light because he knows how much it means to me. But it's rough. I don't know where to go anymore. And Joe asked the mayor yesterday, and the mayor said, it's not my problem, it's yours.
So Pat, Cathedral has been in existence now for over 2 years.
Yep.
And I think it's become a really important part of your life. In fact, you told me, I don't know if I can do this interview because I've got church and you'd better remember it.
Yes.
So talk about the impact of Cathedral and the Light on your life. Like, how is your life different now from before you set foot on the Greenfield Town Common?
I know a lot more people since I've been on the Common, since we started the Cathedral. And I get to see people homeless like me, not homeless, whatever. We're all there to let them see what you're doing, how you're surviving, how they're surviving, to know that you're fighting the community with them, because it's not easy in Greenfield. Homeless is not easy.
Talk about your background, like where you're living now and how you got to where you're living now.
Where I'm living now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm living in a motorhome. I used to sleep in my car because my landlord, he bought his son's dog, and his son's dog was at my bedroom window. And my dog saw that. Well, my dog decided, hey, you're in my property. Pushed the window up, pushed the screen out, pushed the dog out of the yard, and then my landlord was kicking him in the head. And so when I went over to apologize, he said, no, I want you out. 2 days after that, 14-day eviction notice. July 21st, I get court date for September. We go to court, and the magistrate laughed at him and said, you can't do that. You didn't give her a 30-day notice, so this isn't legal. But it's hard because he didn't take it off my court order. If a landlord went on there, he'd see I have a eviction notice, even though it was illegal. And I fight. I tell them that, this is what happened, da-da-da-da. If you want to give me a place, you don't. That's why I'm in my camper now. You can't tell me you're not my landlord no more. You can't tell me I can't live there. I'm the landlord. And I said to all my friends, don't feel sorry for me because I will survive. I'm a fighter, and I have faith, and I believe if I pray and I work hard, I will get what I want. Because God's not just going to hand it to you. You got to work for it.
So what impact does being able to tell your story have on you and Joe and the world?
Well, my thing is letting people know that I'm in the situation that some people are. That I was in that situation, living in my car, or living in a tent, or living on the streets, or trying to survive. I've been there, been to the bottom to me. That being in the streets to me, was sleeping in my car was the bottom. Don't look at me because I was homeless. Look at me, I survived. You can survive. And I feel people should know that I survived.
So it's not so much about bringing a religion, but bringing an experience of religion, which is community, and recognizing folks as our friends and neighbors and engaging with them that way, that I think works really well with the storytelling of street stories and the work that we're involved with.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, I'm Pastor Steph. Welcome to Cathedral Tonight. We're so glad to have you all here with us tonight. We're going to get started in just a moment. Just a couple reminder of things going on during the week.
I met Chris through our partnership with Faithways and with Lance, and Chris came out with a crew just kind of looking for some stories about people and what they've overcome in their life, and he came to visit us over at Hope for Holyoke and just had a great time talking with folks there. And what he found, which is what I know to be true, is that there are just so many great stories of redemption. I think it's true everywhere, but I guess I'm a little partial to Hope for Holyoke, and I know that there are just so many miracles that have happened there through people who have found recovery, who have just endured all kinds of trauma, who have lived really difficult, challenging lives. And Chris came out and started talking with them, and then they would tell him their stories. And I think like most people who come to Hope for Holyoke, he fell in love with both the people and the place, and just became a part of our community. And the other piece of that is that people really like to tell their stories. They want to tell their story. They have a story to share. It helps others to hear that story, but it also is very helpful for the person sharing it. So it's a win-win.
We gather together for worship. Welcome to you if you are a Christian or a believer of any tradition, strong in your faith and beliefs. Welcome to you if you are searching, unsure, or unsettled about the idea of religion. Welcome to you if you are an ardent non-believer, for we all have a place at this table. We gather together for worship.
One of the reasons that we undertook to develop Street Stories was that I had experienced the paradox that the further you push out into the margins, the closer you get to the truth. And the more you come back into the centers of the power, whether it's governmental or religious or economic, the further you get away from the truth. So going out into the streets and even beyond an outdoor sanctuary to lonely places on a street corner, little stairwells, the dark, a lonely morning, and finding someone who would like to talk is almost invariably an incredible opportunity to hear the truth.
Progress means we all have the power of story at our fingertips. The question is, will it be used for good or ill?